we might get started, everyone. Welcome. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 6. I'm a council member as well. Yeah. You can include me. Yeah. So that means that we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's 5 plus 1 is 6, isn't it? Right. So we've got a quorum. Okay, we're going to get started, everyone. Welcome. Welcome to this Ordinary Council meeting, 28th of June 2022. My name is Karen Redmond. I am the Mayor of the town of Gawler. Firstly, I'd like to acknowledge this land that we meet on tonight is the traditional lands for the Kaurna people, and that we respect their spiritual relationship with their country. We also acknowledge the Kaurna people as the custodians of the greater Adelaide region, and that their cultural and heritage beliefs are still as important to the living Kaurna people today. So roll call, we have 2 apologies from Kelvin Goldstone and Councillor Jim Vallelonga. Councillor Shanks says he's going to be a bit late, so at this stage we'll note Councillor Shanks when he comes. So, councillors, are there any motions to grant leave of absence? None, thank you. We do have a leave of absence, and that is Paul Little, and that is up there on the board and also in our papers from 8th of June to 4th of July. There's no non-attendance. Public open forum. So I have one person that wishes to speak, and that is Louise Drummond. Drummond on behalf of the Gawler Business Development Group. If you'd like to come forward, Louise, you're talking about the Business Innovation Hub. Thank you. If you can just turn that microphone on. Now, I'm not sure if people have told you that you have 5 minutes. I'll give you a 30-second warning at 4 minutes 30. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor, CEO and councillors. Tonight, you're going to be having a look at the proposal of what is going to happen with the Business Innovation Hub. I believe that the Gawler Business Development Group brings you in terrific expertise in making it a great success of that. I think you need to reflect on money that has been spent in the past. The community app, hundreds of thousands of dollars. The wayfinders in Walker Place, which don't work. The money paid to Plutus and Andrew Morris in regards to the Business Innovation Hub. And ask yourself whether you got value for money. We bring great expertise. Our board is made up of business people in this town. They either have their own business or they have senior positions in business. They bring a range of skills. We have representatives from the legal profession, education, for banking, technology, and a variety of other areas. All of them are successful business managers. We also have an executive officer who has very wide-ranging skills and qualifications, and who has, in fact, in the past run business enterprise centres very successfully, often winning grants in the millions of dollars. I think that we can do for you what you want the Business Innovation Hub to be, and do it at what would quite frankly be a bargain basement price. I know that we are looking for $50,000 because we would have to take on another person to help us. Our staff are already really working on all of the issues for the businesses in Gawler, and that's where our money goes. It's raised by the businesses through your levy for us, and that's where that money has to be spent. So none of it can go to the Business Innovation Hub. But by putting a small amount of money in, you would get fantastic results, and I think something that you could then feel very proud of. And if anybody would like to now ask me any questions, I'd be very happy to take them.
Any questions for Ms Drummond? Councillor Kosh?
Louise, the first one, the cost. In your submission, you talk about $50,000, plus you also talk about the fees, which I think is around 42,000. So that's up to 92. Then you talk about printing, insurance, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. What would be the final figure?
Just turn your mic off, Paul, and Louise can turn hers on. There you go. Thank you. There you go.
Is that, oh, that is on now.
Yeah.
Obviously things like the printing and stuff like that, I can't give you an accurate figure on that. The money that comes from the rent paid by the people who are already in the hub would go towards their support services, which they've not had. There hasn't been mentoring, there hasn't been business coaching. So there hasn't been any promotion of the hub. And I know that they were issues that people in the hub raised at a meeting that we had about it. You've actually looked at, with the proposal that's been put forward tonight, you've actually got in there that council staff would in fact be running the hub. But if you were to take them out of that, that money can be reallocated to what we could do and do very, very professionally, because we actually have the skills and experience to do it.
You talked about the expertise of the board members. Board members generally are to do with the strategic planning of an organisation, not necessarily the running of programs. So what's the relationship between the board members and actually running programs in the hub?
Well, in the planning meetings that we have, everybody brings their expertise to the sorts of things that businesses are looking for, things that would help them, and they can offer their own view of those things. We're very fortunate in our executive officer and our marketing officer that they bring great expertise and they can make suggestions. And I would suggest that any councillor who was at our conference on Friday would be able to attest to the level of professionalism and expertise that we put into whatever it is that we do.
One more question.
Could you just clarify, I think the board agreed that members of the hub would have free membership to the Gawler Business Development Group, is that right, recently? Yeah. So that's right, okay. So does that mean that whoever comes into the hub gets assistance already from the Gawler Business Development Board Group from that existing money that is levied by council, the 160?
So just turn, thank you.
The free membership we offered was to encourage people to actually join. A number of the people in the hub have in fact taken out paid membership. So it was trying to encourage the interaction with the Gawler Business Development Group. It's an entirely different matter. If we were to take over management of the hub, it means that we would be using the rent for what it had originally been suggested was the use for it. And so that means that they have a very different line of expertise available to them.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Hughes.
The Business Development Group have already got a presence in our hub. My understanding that of those people that use the hub, is it only 2 businesses are members of the Business Development Group, and there is that relationship there already, but only 2 have considered joining. Can you explain any of that rationale?
Are you asking why the others haven't joined? I guess that's a point that with any business group, you ask who joins and who takes advantage of what's there. The people who have joined are really enthused about what we've been able to offer them. And maybe the others just feel that they know so much that they don't need any support.
Councillor Davies.
So in terms of the agenda item that's coming up, 8.8, for the business model, it does mention entering arrangements with, the business development group and the RDA Barossa. Are you, I guess, suggesting changes to the wording, or are you elaborate? What would you like to see out of the motion?
I would like you to consider us taking over management of the hub for you. The RDA initially said that they would only give 1 day every 3 weeks to support the people in the hub. We said we might be able to manage 2 days a week, although we have a presence there 1 day a week, as it is now, but we're fully stretched with that. So we couldn't go in there on a Monday to Friday basis. So I'm asking you to have a look at a totally different way of managing the hub and actually get value for money out of it. Unfortunately, you've lost hundreds of thousands of dollars over a number of things that were meant to assist business in Gawler. And you have to ask yourselves how that has worked out for you. But we are in a position to actually make that hub work extremely well for you and have a vibrant business asset in the community, which was the sort of thing that you had initially thought that you would get.
Okay, thank you. One more question.
So I guess in terms of the, so basically you're suggesting that rather than just temporarily coming in to assist the staff, you take over, and then that would involve us. So would it involve council putting towards $50,000, or in some way would we increase our business rates to accommodate for, the way that you're already getting funded? Is that, just being clear on the funding method?
At this point, it would have to be an investment by council, but by taking the council staff out of there and just allocating that money to the hub. We would obviously need a contract with you. We'd need a totally different way of doing it. What we do now is very precisely described by the levy on all the businesses in Gawler and the people who choose to be members of our group, which are growing all the time, by the way. After the conference on Friday, we had several people come and say, I now want to join. So our home-based businesses are starting to see the value of being involved and are willing to pay for being members. Our business members in commercial premises are already members, as you know. This would be a different aspect, but it would benefit by having really vibrant businesses in the Innovation Hub that could grow and go into commercial premises and take on staff. It helps grow the whole economic pie in Gawler.
Thank you. Thank you, Royce. Okay, that completes public open forum. There are no deputations, declarations of interest, councillors. So there's a few people with their hands up, so I'll start with you, Councillor Koch.
Yes, I'll be declaring a perceived conflict of interest for 8.3, adoption of the 2022-23 fees and charges. Perceived conflict, it's due to my advocacy of an artisans market in Gawler, and I'll be leaving the meeting.
Thank you. Councillor Hughes.
Thank you. 8.5, part 9, the declaration of rates and charges as it relates to the Northern and York Landscape Board. I'll be declaring a perceived conflict and leaving the room for that section, that part 9.
Councillor Fraser.
3.3, 7.4, I have a perceived conflict as I have a relative who lives in Charles Street, but I will be staying in the room.
And I have a perceived conflict in 8:11, and I'll be staying in the room, and I'll be making decisions in the best interests of the Gawler community. So that's how I will deal with that conflict. Okay. Any other conflicts that anyone wishes to declare? No. Okay. So now we move on to confirmation of minutes. And we have the ordinary council meeting on the 24th of May. You happy to move that way, Deputy Mayor? Do I have a seconder? I'll get a seconder first. Do I have a seconder for the ordinary council meeting on the 24th of May? Thank you, Councillor Samble. You have a question, Councillor Davies?
Oh, I was just, it's being amended up on the screen as it was, but the motion originally said was for both meetings at once.
No, we'll
but
do one at a time.
One at a time.
Yep. Thank you. I generally do them one at a time. Yep. I didn't actually see that because I couldn't see it. Okay. I think I've answered that question. Okay. If there's no further discussion, I'll put that motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. It's carried unanimously. Now we'll deal with Councillor Hughes moved it and Brian Samble seconded it. So Deputy Mayor Hughes, thank you. So now we'll move to the special council meeting on the 7th of June. You happy to move that way, Councillor Davies? Thank you. Do I have a seconder, Deputy Mayor? Any discussion? If not, I'll put that motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Carried unanimously. Thank you. So that deals with that business arising. Keep moving. So now at your discretion, Council, I'd like to move the notices of motion forward, which is 14.1, 14.2 and 14.3. I thought it was best to do them first before we deal with the budget. And I've included Councillor Fraser's motion for completeness. So if somebody wishes to move that way, are you happy to move that way, Councillor Davies? You happy to second Councillor Fraser? I'm just making sure that the minutes are okay. I can't see it. Thank you. So that's what's up on the board. If everyone can see it, that's what we're going to be voting on, that items 14.1, 2 and 3 be brought forward. If there's no further discussion, I'll put that motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. It is carried unanimously. Thank you. So we will deal with the first motion, which is yours, Deputy Mayor. And I'll just go to 84 so I can see. There we go. So, Deputy Mayor, you have the floor.
Thanks, Mayor. Yeah, I won't read this word for word, but we have had confirmation as well about the senior members of the garden club actually getting access to keys to actually access toilets once they do set their hours. But if we do move this motion above the line, it means that this garden club can actually get going and get things planted and actually move on the site, which is what they want to do. We have had a number of presentations from the garden club. I believe they've been trying for 8 years. It's been a long process for them. I think this will get things on site and moving. We have looked at alternative sites, but this has been chosen as the best site, and the group's now incorporated. I do think that this will actually help with further funding It's even been highlighted in our health plan that we should have community gardens as a healthy town. And it's good for people's health gardening. It's also good community group and service, and I believe like they'll actually have workshops and training and other events on the site as well. So it will be quite good for the community of Evanston Gardens as well as for the wider gardening group. So yeah, I do ask councillors to support this. Talking to Paul Horwood tonight, he agreed that out of the $80,000, that's unlikely to be spent the entire amount that was in the budgeted bid for the food green waste, but we do want to make sure that this program goes as best as possible, but we could save 25,000 out of that and go across to this because that all the funds, that whole 80,000 won't be required in the first year. It's actually over 3 years, very likely. So I do think within our budget we can fit this in, and I do think it's really important for this community group to actually get going on this site that we've earmarked, and they've earmarked, and we've got everything lined up for them to go. So I think this is really important to the community as a whole, and to help the gardening group actually get going. So yeah, please support it. Thanks.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Fraser, do you wish to speak at all?
At first, I wasn't going to agree with this, but then in hindsight, I was thinking about the amount of money that we spend on sporting clubs. Not everybody plays sport, but this is an active community, so it gets people outside, it gets them active, it gets them communicating together, which is very important. At the moment with, fruit and veg being so expensive, it's a really good idea. And the fact that they now have access to toilets, that's a bonus. So yes, and as Deputy Mayor said, that once they get this fence up and they get into it, they've got a lot more chance of getting grants. So I'm happy to second this now.
Any discussion, Councillor Shanks?
Yeah, look, I support the sentiment of the motion, but given the way that the budget process is running, given the way that we have community clubs like even the Gawler Car Club is a perfect example, we've managed to find some land for this community club, which I think is fantastic. I am in support of supporting community clubs where we can, but putting them ahead of another club in this particular budget process is not something I'm comfortable doing. They're already one step ahead of, say, again, the car club in having some land getting worked through. And you've heard the presentations that I think we all agree we've had, and it's been a bit of a long slog for them. It's been equally a hard slog for the car club, if not harder. And I believe those conversations have been going on for 10 years. And we're still trying to work through placing that community club, which we know is 754 members strong. So the reason this one doesn't have my support isn't necessarily against the garden club, it's against putting one ahead of the other, given the history involved in two very strong clubs. And the fact we have land for this one is already a plus. And I think we've got some work to do to catch up with sharing the love a little bit in this next rotation of budget. So begrudgingly, I can't support moving $25,000 above the line for this particular initiative right now.
Thank you. Councillor Kosh?
Thanks, Mayor. Look, I'll be supporting this motion. What makes a community group successful? You've got three elements. It's the physical sites, for example, the finances and the human endeavour that people place into an organisation. This community group has shown great community endeavour. They're resilient, they've worked at it over a number of years. They've had knockbacks and they've come back because they believe in what they want to do. They want to create a garden, a community, which is not only growing vegetables, but also it's of social value. It's mental health, it's physical health. You only have to read our community health plan to see that right throughout that community health plan. Those certain elements shine through every single time. And in this case, we've got a community group that wants to take on those attributes. As the Deputy Mayor said, that if you talk about the community plan, if you look at the community plan, there's 18 domains when it comes to community health, and one of them is actually community gardens. So there's of those 18 domains, one of them is community gardens. That's how important community gardens are for the community. So I'm quite happy to support this. I think the $25,000 will get them on their way. They have support from other service groups, because originally there was issues around whether they needed more money to have the fence actually erected commercially. But I've been told, I spoke to the representatives tonight, that they have support from service groups that will help them in that, so that this money will get them on the way. And once the fence is up, they should be on the way. Just a final, as a parting comment, I mean, I've set up 3 community gardens in my time as a professional horticulturalist, and you need all these elements in place. And once you get them in place, they flourish. So I'm quite happy to support this. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion, Councillor Davies?
Yeah, I'll support the motion. For me, I think a big consideration I have in looking at budget items is the difference in timescale between council and the community. I think for the council, it's easy for us to say, well, let's push that back a year, or, you know, that's in our 30-year plan for roads or whatever. But for a community group who's active and is, you know, trying to maintain enthusiasm amongst a group or something, saying, oh, we'll get back to it in 2 years can just wipe out the group, you know. So I just think, you know, I'd like to be able to, when they're, you know, still active and ready to go, that we can provide them some support.
Mr. Horde, you want to say something? You want to move the motion? No?
Through you, Mayor, I know it is my last budget, but I just wanted to, I guess, in terms of budget transparency, just suggest an additional line to the motion relative to the funding it from the FOGO initiative, and just suggesting that wording to the effect that the additional 25,000 expenditure be offset via a 25,000 saving in the normal FOGO initiative of 80,000 due to the FOGO initiative being spread over multiple years. Just so it provides that transparency.
Any savings? So Paul, do you want to help the minute takers with those words? Now, mover and seconder, are you happy with those words? Okay, no problem. Chris is just going to put them in. I think she got some of it. You're confident of that, Mr. Horwood? Okay. Yep, thank you. Deputy Mayor, you seek leave to speak again, Councillor Shanks? Does the meeting give Councillor Shanks leave? If you could raise your hand so I can see clearly, you have leave.
Thank you, Chamber. I think that point is very important to highlight, because what we've done there, and thank you, Mr. Horwood, for pointing that out. And I do know Deputy Mayor pointed out in the preamble, but I think it's very important to reiterate that we're not spending additional money. What we're doing is we're using an initiative that already exists that actually falls into the category that aligns with the community garden. And that's what this motion now does. So it changes it up a lot. So firstly, Mr. Horwood, thank you for avoiding me having to send an apology to Debbie and Co in the garden group. And secondly, yeah, I'll be changing my vote for that.
Deputy Mayor, you can close the debate if you like.
Yeah, just quickly, I don't think the Garden Club is above any other club. I think we're trying to work with all the clubs, and you know, we do have a motion to support the car club for $80,000 towards a shed and on the showgrounds. But I mean, staff are busily working with the car club. So, but I do think that we work with all our club community groups. We've got over 200 of them. And yeah, trying to get them to co-locate or work together is really important, I think. So yeah, it's all part of the busy work of council. So yeah, yeah, I think it'd be great if everyone supports this motion. Thanks.
I'm going to put that motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. It is carried unanimously. This is exciting. Carried unanimously. Okay, so now Councillor Davies, if you have the floor, you can present your motion. Thank you.
So this one was pointed out in our community consultation, but the youth development plan review and update is something that I wanted to highlight to bring above the line, because this is something that it's basically completely lapsed. Like, this isn't the case of, you know, oh, well, we've got a, you know, our community development plan, 5-year plan, we're doing it in 3 years instead of 2 years. It was done in 2013 and it expired in 2018, and years later, it's been 9 years now, there's just no youth development plan. And so that's led us to a situation where we have no plan for youth development, and our previous plan didn't reflect the fact that we have a civic centre and a youth space now, and it's completely changed. It's completely changed what we do as youth work in the town. I was involved as a member of the Youth Advisory Committee back then, and our attempts to get community engagement would go down to the youth shack in the sports centre and try to invite people along, but it just wasn't really working because it's, I mean, you know, it's a bit of a warehouse. You bring out the plastic chairs and then you have to pack them away again because someone's coming in for ukulele lessons or church or whatever the next day. And so we just didn't get much traction, but it's a completely different system now for our youth, and it would be really good to have a development plan so that we could tie it into other plans, so that we could say that here's our focus on youth, because I think it's something really important for the town.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Samble.
Thank you, Mayor Karen. Yes, I agree wholeheartedly with what Cody has said, and it's also interesting. The youth shack was actually built for youth activities and all. When the Civic Centre came on board, well, it's all directed to here now. And I don't know who could say, but what is going to happen with that area? Is it now utilised for just general hiring? And I think, as Councillor Davies said, maybe a ukulele or a few other people using it from time to time, but it seems as though it's come under use now. But I certainly support this because it's so important that our young people have got direction, and I've been very impressed with the way the youth development is happening with this council and the supportiveness of what it's doing in our town. So I'll certainly like to second the motion.
Councillor Fraser. Thank you, Councillor Samble. Certainly, may.
What does the 30,000 use for? Is it used for activities?
I think it's for developing a new plan. So it's reviewing the plan, and it's also developing an updated plan.
But surely that's
Yeah, consultation. So often plans take about 30,000.
Okay, all
Yeah,
right then.
yeah. So
Okay.
it's not an unreasonable amount when you look at the work that needs to be done to develop a new plan.
All right then. Okay, I'll speak to it if I can.
Yes, certainly.
Yes, I'll agree to this. I think it's really important to have our youth on board. They are the future of Gawler. So I think they need to have a voice in Gawler, be able to have a voice in Gawler. I think that's really important. So yes, I'm more than happy to.
Councillor Shanks.
I'm not sure if we're allowed to say we definitely deserve a voice yet, Cody. I think we're past our date now where we can actually say that. Yeah, look, I'm in support of this because you're right. The youth space, the Yak, we've gone leaps and bounds. And this is all part of making sure that our direction, as it is now, as it's going to be in the future, is captured. And if we already had a plan and a direction that hasn't been updated, it makes perfect sense that we now need to start looking at this because we have new assets, we have new networks, we have a lot of growth in this area, and this is proactive. The $30,000, am I correct in saying that was a staff figure that you're hoping to move above the line? Yes, yeah, correct. So I agree, the $30,000 probably aligns with most of the other plans work and covers the community consultation. I'm really looking forward to, if this gets up, being on the Yak and being able to work in with them too, and having buy-in. So yeah, look, you've got my support with this one.
Any other discussion? Councillor Kosh.
Yeah, look, I just want to clarify, we just had a lot of angst with that last motion about 25,000. And I moved a motion last meeting and I was told it to find an offset. Where's the offset?
Mr. Horde.
Through you, Mayor Karen, obviously the motion as it stands at the moment doesn't illustrate any offset to the budget to fund it.
That's the answer to that. When you wrap up, yeah, sure. Deputy Mayor, sorry, I didn't see you there.
That's right. Just a question through the staff. My understanding is that we're still working to the existing plan that we've got in place now, and everything seems to be running really well. So I'd be more looking for evaluations of what's going on, because like we've got fantastic training programs going on and all that sort of, whether we can have a staff comment on this, because it was below the line and this is the first time it's sort of come up where the community garden, we've had lots of other motions.
Thank you. Chia, would you like to make a comment there? Because I think the plan doesn't get chucked out, you still use the plan, it's just not updated. Is that correct?
Yes, through the chair, that's correct. So obviously the old plan did expire in 2018. We still refer to it and we still use it. The context is quite different though, because we didn't have the youth space programming, was not the regular kind of programming that it is now. It was more events, youth development, that sort of thing, whereas we have a regular schedule of programming. So the focus has changed significantly, and it would just realign, give us some new strategic priorities, and also embed the youth space in the plan, which doesn't exist in there now.
Thank you for those comments. Councillor Davies, you can, oh, sorry, Councillor Kosh, you wish to speak, sorry.
I mean, this is a hard one because I was on the Yak before when it was first established. I'm just concerned that there's not an offset. And also, every time we have a council meeting, we have two councillors that say what wonderful things are happening there. It is just absolutely fantastic, and it's full, and it couldn't be any better. But now we're saying that it's not. And I would like to see, as Deputy Mayor said, I would prefer to see an evaluation of where we're up to, because it sounds like to me, from all the reports that I've got, that I've heard, that the youth space is working tickety-boo. So I'd like to see an offset, and I'd like to have an evaluation before I would want to see a new plan. So unfortunately, although I support the youth, I won't be supporting this at the moment because of that lack of offset and the fact that it sounds like everything's going really well anyway. And I think there needs an evaluation. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor, you've got your hand up. You've got a question?
It's probably more a question to the mover about getting a more thorough report back and actually working out what we really want. Because I would support some work in this space. I think it's really important, but I think we have to be strategic about how we spend our money. And I think some sort of, evaluations are often part of strategic plans, but sometimes they're not. But yeah, I'd actually like to see a report on this and then work out where we're going to spend, whether it's 30,000 or 40,000 or whatever needs to be done. But I think, as Councillor Koch said, in the reports we get back and when we do tours, the youth space is really flying along. I want to enhance that.
So a question to the mover about getting a report on an evaluation or words to that effect. Is that what you're asking? Mover?
I mean, I could add something, but I don't want to remove the budget bid so that we can go to a report and put this in a future budget. I want this to go into the budget. Yeah. But if we want to add
you could add that, I mean, you could leave it as is and you could add a second point that a report be presented to, you know, not a future council meeting, but a council meeting in this current term on an evaluation of the youth space or the youth development that encompasses all things youth. So it could just be youth development, including the youth space, activities of the youth space. So that could be a second point.
all right, the report to be presented to
That covers-
council or to the CCS committee or?
Yeah, you could do that. You could, it's up to you.
All right.
That report be presented to council during this current council term on assessing the effectiveness of youth development, including the activities of the youth space. Does that cover off on what I've heard?
It sort of does. What I'm concerned about is that this budget bid sort of restricts it to just a youth development plan, which would get probably a report back to council saying this is the process that we're going to engage consultants to run a youth development plan, where we haven't really probably nutted it out exactly what we want as well.
I think if I can, the report comes back in the current term, which is only in the next couple of months. So this budget bid is for the next 12 months. So I would suggest that a new plan or an updated plan would take 12 months to do. So I would argue that you could get that report back and it might address some of your concerns. So, but the wording needs to be right. Again, be guided by the mover, what the mover would like to do, but that a report be presented to council during this current council term. We've only got a couple of months left, so I think it will come first. I think it has to, based on that, because it will take a number of months. We know that community consultation takes a little while. You need to engage consultants. You need to, you know, go out and go out to the market, etc. So that's not going to happen in the next couple of months. That will happen over the next 12 months. No. Oh, got some creative thinking by our minute takers. So we've had some words at it. I mean, it's up to you, mover. What do you think? It really is in your court. Sorry.
Well, look, I mean, because part of the 30,000 might be in, I don't know, staff time on working on this, you know, so I don't know if it's too harsh to say quarantining the budget bid or.
It makes it really hard when you're approving a budget.
Yeah.
It makes it really, I mean, as much as I'm hearing what people are wanting to do, I think getting a report will happen before you actually bring back a draft
Yes.
youth development
I think that's
plan.
the natural step, is that they were probably already going to go through it as part of the process, because it is a review and update in the first place. But we're just asking for a report back so that we can make sure it's keeps heading in the right direction.
Well, it informs.
That informs what they do, yeah, which is a general part of our process. Anytime we go out to community consultation or anything like that, it always comes to council for approval in any way, so.
Chia?
Through the chair, just for clarity, are you specifically wanting a review or evaluation of the former youth development plan? Or
No,
the broader
no,
effectiveness?
youth development.
Youth development activities, that's
We've
broad.
specifically used the term youth development, which is the youth development portfolio. Would that be better?
That's very broad, that's all, yeah.
I know,
Yeah.
but I think that's what I'm hearing from the floor, that there's concerns around a lack of evaluation before asking for further money for a youth development plan. And what we're trying to do is cover off on that report so that, you've got some sense of effectiveness. I've used the term effectiveness. If we could use on assessing or on evaluation of, we could change that. You use the term evaluation. So we could change that on the evaluation of the youth development portfolio of the youth. So that might be a better word. Councillor Shanks.
Just a question, if I could, through you, Mayor.
Yeah.
Henry, you're not going to approve a $30,000 spend before coming back to us with some future reports on how that's going to be spent. Is that correct?
No, what this says is that $30,000 be moved above the line.
Yeah, that's right. But what
And this is a separate report on just an evaluation of the current activities.
Yeah, that's right. But we're going to have a couple of chances to refine this plan, where some of the evaluation and what's happening now in the current plan is going to be teased out through that process. Is that right to say? I mean, there's a reason that $30,000 was put in as a budget bid, because there's a room for improvement. I'm assuming we're going to see a report on why, regardless of what we request now.
Not necessarily. We might just get an updated plan. When plans are, so for example, the Williston Cemetery Management Plan has never been approved by council, yet it's in place.
Okay.
So there are plans in council that haven't been approved, but we still do work at the Williston Cemetery. So I think they're two separate matters. I don't think they conflict. I think that's okay. Yeah. So if there's no further discussion, you can close the debate, Councillor Davis.
All right, so yeah, look, a report can come back. I don't mind. It doesn't, I think, change things too much. Having a review of our plans is not only something we do when something goes horribly wrong. It's a regular part of our process. It's, if we had this for any other environmental management plan or whatever, we would be coming back for review, not necessarily leave it for 15 years and then when someone has a problem with the tree, say we need to spark a review. Just as part of our processes, we have up-to-date plans. And the youth plan is not up to date because the youth officers are currently working under different priorities to the plan, naturally, because circumstances have changed and they don't have any working documents that reflect that right now. As far as the budget goes, look, there's a reason that we take a couple of months out of our budget time to do public consultation. I think if we were just to, the reason is partly because we're legislatively forced to do it, but theoretically the reason is because we want to hear from the community. So if we get back the public consultation And, you know, the sort of pressure of don't change it because the staff have already figured it out. It's like, well, it doesn't feel very encouraging for people to submit any public consultation in the future, really. Like, I think this is not something that goes over the limits that we've set. This is still within the bounds of the acceptable ratio as defined by the staff. I think, you know, this is something that it did come up. Jack Gill, one of our youth committee members, put in a submission to the public consultation about this. And I think it's reasonable for us to make some minor adjustments to the budget based on the public consultation, because otherwise it doesn't feel like there's much purpose in having a public consultation. So yeah, look, so I'd ask you to support this. It will come back with a report, and you know, anything that goes out to community consultation, of course, it comes through the council. So yeah, I'd ask everyone to support this. Thank you.
So I'm going to put that motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Carried unanimously. Thank you. Now, Councillor Davies, you have the floor. Councillor Fraser, I beg your pardon.
Okay.
There we go.
Yes, I'd like to move this motion. First of all, I'd like to say that I'm not necessarily a royalist, but we did have it pointed out by a member of the community that we totally ignored the 70 years, which was probably not a good thing for us really to have done that. All levels of government are still aligned to the Commonwealth. We are a Commonwealth country. For example, we've got a photo of the Queen in the chamber even, you know, so, and I'm not suggesting for 1 minute that we spend a lot of money on this. I mean, times are very different since the last coronation. We've got TV now, we've got, you know, live coverage of the coronation, and it's not really a matter of it's not really a matter of if the coronation is going to happen fairly, you know, in the next few years. It might not be this year, it might not be next year, but it's going to happen just because of the age of our the Queen. So I just think it would be a good idea for us to know what we can do here, just to recognise the new king as will be. So yes. That's all.
Thank you. Councillor Sample, you want a second?
Yes, thanks, Mayor Karen, and I endorse everything that I'm not sure what I am, but I certainly support that wonderful grand old lady, the Queen, and the amount of phone calls I got, I was just quite amazed that this town did not in any way really acknowledge, or even the mayor walked down the street and hand out flags to people or something, and editourism, promotions and things like that. It wasn't good. So I support this, and I would ask of you to support it. We're not supporting any money at this stage. We're point in principle that we make sure we do the right thing, whether Charlie or whoever else comes in.
Yeah, sure.
I was just wondering, similar to the previous motion, if members would be happy that the report be presented back to the council on this matter before the end of the council term. I'm just conscious that, you know, July is only a couple of weeks away, and I'm sure there's quite a bit of information to research and then for purposes of presenting an informed
So we
report.
might, okay. Are you happy, Mover? That a report be presented in this current council term. So get rid of the 26th July 2022 ordinary council meeting, presented in this current council term. Okay, happy with that? Councillor Kosh. Thank you, thank you, minute takers.
Thanks, Mayor. Look, I'm going to support this. I think when I've got a great respect for the current Queen. She's done a wonderful job. And she'll, you know, obviously she won't last forever. There'll be another coronation of a king, and I think that's a historic moment, and I think we need to recognise that because we are part of the Commonwealth, and it's important to recognise those milestones in the history of our country. So I'm happy to support it.
Any other discussion? If not, Councillor Davies.
Yeah, look, I mean, I'm mixed on this one. I mean, I might support it given that it's not asking for a budget at this stage. I mean, you know, I know there's some things we'll have to do, like the picture of the Queen behind David Barrett over there will probably have to be replaced, presumably, but you know, fundamentally, just in terms of, I don't know, fundamentally, I don't believe that the British nobility have magic blood that destines them to rule over us. So like, I'm not, you know, in terms of celebrating the new monarch, I'm not particularly excited about it. But, you know, like if, I'm sure there are things that we will have to update and adjust because the current Queen has been there for what's 70 years, which means that I'm sure there's a bunch of things written in everywhere that just refers to the Queen that we'll have to update and adjust. So, and I might support this motion, but, you know, if we have any subsequent motions for $100,000 King celebrations, I might not, but I think I'll support this one.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Councillor Shanks?
Yeah, look, I'm a little bit similar, but I will support the motion purely because I guess being an elected member sometimes isn't just about my own beliefs, and I am hearing some of the sentiment that's coming through some of the other elected members, and also I've seen a couple of those emails come through. So I think we do owe it to the position to at least research into this, because although I didn't even think about it until it was done and dusted, there were people that are pretty shocked about our lack of acknowledgement. And I wouldn't have realised that until that was brought forward. I don't want to offend anyone unknowingly when there is a level of importance that is held to that Commonwealth. On a personal level, I'd like to see us out on our own, but that's a whole other political discussion to have. So look, I'm happy to support the motion the way that it sits, and yeah, let's see what this actually means.
Thank you. Any other discussion? If not, Councillor Fraser, you can close the debate. Thank you.
Yes, I'm not suggesting for 1 minute that we have a big party like there probably was at when the last coronation happened. Maybe the history group could find some stuff from the last coronation, well, the previous coronations, not just the last one, and have like a display or something. There might be something there. Might be just flags down the street. You know, it doesn't have to be a lot. It's just got to be recognition. That's all, really.
I'm going to put that motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Carried unanimously. Thank you. That deals with the motions on notice. So we'll move into decision reports, and I'm on page 5 of our agenda. And the first one is participatory budgeting initiative voting result. You happy to move that way, Councillor Davies?
Yes, I'd like to move, well, I'm just scrolling back to page 5. I'd like to move, I guess, a version of this that for point 4, increasing the budget for next year's participatory budgeting initiative. So I don't know if that is something that needs to be in this motion or it will come back to us for review and we can discuss it then.
I think point 4 is adequate because we'll have a new budget process, and then that will test the waters of the amount. So I think that's okay. If we put in a budget now, the new council might change it.
Yeah.
Because they can, you know, it'll be a new council. So I would recommend that you leave that and leave the new council to decide how much they want to spend on that, because that'll come up.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that might be better, but yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Well, then I'm happy to move the motion as is. And speak to it. Yeah, so participatory budgeting is something that, yeah, I've been pushing for a couple of years now, and I've been really happy to see it work so well, and have the staff get on board and have the community get on board. I was part of the group that went through the submissions, and you know, we had a range of submissions that were quite good. That you know, some of them we couldn't accept just because they were over the number threshold budget and that kind of thing, but I think we can, you know, iron that out in the future. And I think we've got a couple of initiatives here that, you know, had between both of them had a couple of hundred votes in terms of first and second preference from the community, which is, you know, considering our usual budget process of, you know, we have a few people come in and make a submission. I think this is a big increase in the amount of the level of participation in our budget. People will be able to walk past that drinking fountain and they'll be able to say, oh, I voted for this. This is, you know, this is my contribution to the local community. And I think that's the value in something like this, is to have everyone own it and not just have it feel like it's a council staff decision, but oh, this is our drinking fountain, you know. So I'm really happy with the way it's gone, and I'm happy to see it continue into the future.
Do I have a seconder? Oh, I think I saw Councillor Shanks first.
Yeah, look, I'm happy to second this. It is a good initiative, and every time we speak about it, it's a very positive thing. I have received a little bit of feedback, nothing negative, but we do these things to refine and refine. One of the comments that I got back was, we're upgrading central open space. And therefore, again, some of the more localised to different suburb spaces are left behind. Now, that's a sentiment that isn't necessarily just about this. It's about the fundamental service levels across the whole thing. But this had a really good uptake. I think that was really positive, and I think we can grow on here. But next time, maybe just spitballing ideas here, we look at a central item, and then maybe we do look at another open space that's not necessarily central to the town, because by default, we're always going to get the higher votes for the higher used. And there may be opportunity to using this item to be able to bring some service level initiatives up in some of our other great parks in the area that are sort of falling behind a little bit on service levels. Again, it's not necessarily related to this particular item. It's just some feedback that I was given that I actually took on board and saw maybe some opportunity to craft the next version of this in a even more positive manner. But that all aside, our first go, I think we should be pretty proud of how this has come back. I think we should be pretty proud of the fundamental stuff that we're going to see in the parks. Especially Apex, because obviously, as we know, it's a very well received park. The solar lights, I'm really looking forward to that, the drinking fountain. So yeah, overall, I'm really happy with the report, the outcome and the outcomes to come. But I just thought I'd, share that feedback.
Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, I was also involved with the submissions, and just really impressed with how much effort and how much work went into the submissions in detail and quotes and photos and everything else. And I think majority of the submissions were the more used and things, you know, there was a couple of little local park stuff. And in some of those areas, we're already spending quite a lot of money already in some of those communities already. So, really happy about how the voting fell out, because I think they were the highest priorities that I could see as well. So I think that sort of was really quite powerful. And I think compared to other councils, the feedback we get just on our normal budget process, as well as this, sort of puts us into a very small number of councils that get a lot of feedback on their budget, which is really quite powerful as well, which is good.
I think people thought they had $40,000 to spend, and I think that can be made a bit clearer depending on what the number is next year, because it wasn't really clear that you actually had 20,000 as a maximum to spend. So I think we can do better with our messaging next time. But that, as you said, Nathan, you know, it's a learning experience, so you live and you learn as you go along, so you get better at it. Councillor Fraser.
Yes, I'm happy to support this. I think it's a really good initiative. We did have the two that were selected did get the majority votes, so it didn't really come down to, in the end, to us deciding to do Central Parks. It was the votes that decided that. So I'm more than happy to support this.
Thank you. Councillor Davies, do you want to wrap up the debate? Did you wish to speak at all? No? Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thanks to everyone for their feedback. I think, yeah, the idea of spreading around the growth of service levels in other parks and other open space areas is something that I think as we continue, there's the opportunity to give different, things to just make sure that if we do this for 3 years and every time we're upgrading Apex Park, maybe we'll look at it and go, all right, Apex Park is pretty well upgraded at this point. But, I think especially in the south of Gawler, I hear a lot about, it would be great if we had some more services here, but that's the kind of thing that we can, through communication with residents there or through, specific parts of the way we do things, that's something that we can look into in the future. But I think as a whole, it's a really good initiative. So I'd ask everyone to support this motion.
I'm going to put the motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Carried unanimously. Thank you. Now we'll move on to 8.2, adoption of the long-term financial plan. Happy to move that way, Councillor Fraser?
Yes, I'm happy to move this way. We've already been through this considerably. There was no public submission, so there's really no further discussion as far as I'm concerned.
And you're happy to second, Deputy Mayor? Okay, do you wish to speak at all?
No, just it's an amazing body of work, the reports, and thank the staff for the detailed reports, because yeah, they are very detailed and there's a lot of information in the report.
Thank you. Councillor Koch?
Yeah, I'll be supporting this. I think, yes, it's an amazing amount of work, a lot of detail. For me, I look at page 38 of 284 and attachment 1, and I look at the net financial liabilities ratio. It's one I always look at, not every night, but I always look at it, because that really shows us where we are. And it does demonstrate the need to be fiscally responsible, because I suppose I've been on council long enough to see the trends. It goes like a sine wave, where we get our debt down and then we can take on a major project, our debt goes up, and then we get the debt down, so we can do some borrowing and do another major project. So if we look at that little graph there, those little bars, we're at the peak, going to be 93%. Is our net financial liabilities ratio. You're going to peak at that, but with this plan, we get it down. And by 26, 27, we can then start looking at, say, the pool. That's the next iconic project. So this is really important that we have these long-term plans and that we stick to them, because if we don't, we will end up being over our net liabilities ratio forever, and we'll get nothing done. So we need to be, so it's good that we have this plan. We need to look at these graphs, etc., and really realise what's happening. But really what we're doing is being fiscally responsible, which is fantastic. Thank you.
Any other discussion? If not, Councillor Fraser, are you happy for me to put the motion? I'm going to put that motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. All those against, it is carried. Thank you. Now, adoption of fees and charges. Councillor Koch, you wish to declare a conflict?
Yes, I wish to declare a conflict of this due to my advocacy for an artisans market in Gawler, and I'll leave the meeting while it's being discussed.
And that's how you're going to deal with it, by
Yes,
leave the
we'll do it
meeting?
that way.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. So we have an officer's recommendation. You happy to move that way, Deputy Mayor? Oh, there we go.
Yeah, there's only been fairly small changes, and yeah, we have discussed this at a couple of meetings and gone through all the processes, and yeah, very happy to move this motion.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Fraser, do you wish to speak at all? Any discussion? If there's no discussion, oh, sorry, Councillor Shanks.
Just clarity. This report that highlighting all the fees and charges and everything like that.
Uh-huh.
It also notes that across the board, it's averaging at about 3% increase realistically. Yeah, I'm seeing nodding. So yeah, look, I think this is just general business. We're adapting with inflation, and yeah, unfortunately, I'd love to not put anything up ever, but yeah, it's all part of the process.
If there's no further discussion, Deputy Mayor, are you happy for me to put the motion? I'm going to put that motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Carried unanimously. If somebody could ask Councillor Koch. Thank you, Lakesh. Okay, so now we have 8.4, adoption of the budget. Not on this particular one, but on the rates and charges we do. Rates and charges we do. Yep. Have you changed this one?
Yes.
Oh, right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Through you, Mayor Karen.
Have you made the adjustments, Paul?
Yes, I'll just quickly word them for governance because they're only very slight. Proposing that in recommendation 1, instead of saying as presented, say as amended.
Yep.
And then in recommendation 2,
Yep.
2A,
Yep.
1.421 to read 1.426.
Yep.
And a surplus, underlying operating surplus of 168,000, not 173.
Yep.
And with the item C, net financial liabilities ratio of 93% instead of 92.9.
Yep.
And the adjusted operating surplus ratio, sorry, in B, instead of 0.51 to be 0.50.
50.
Otherwise, no changes.
Yep. Otherwise, no changes. What about G? Was that not changing?
That won't change.
That won't change. Okay. You happy to move that way, Deputy Mayor? Do you wish to speak?
Yes, I think this is, with this budget, we have done a lot of work as a council for the last nearly 6 months on this budget. And in the last couple of months, we have seen a large increase in the CPI, 7 to nearly 8% increase. So I think 3.5% general rate increase is trying to keep things to the minimum. I think with the CEO talking about looking at efficiencies and ways of doing things better across the whole board, I think that will also help. Yeah, we have gone through quite a structured process, and I think it's the best budget that we could come up with and try and work as fiscally responsible as, but also try and deliver to our ratepayers' demands as much as we can as well. So we do a lot for our ratepayers, and yeah, I think the 3.5% rate rise is fair and as low as we could really deliver for our ratepayers as well. So happy to move it.
Do you have a seconder? Councillor Fraser, do you wish to speak at all? Any other discussion? Councillor Koch.
Just got some questions on some of the capital expenditures.
Yep.
I mean, I don't want to change it. I just want to get some clarification on a few things, if that's possible.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay. I'm on page 110 of 284. So it's attachment 2.
110
of 284.
Yep.
I think the first one, I just want to get some clarity around the light fleet replacement. There's 2 items. I'll just get them a bit bigger. It comes up twice. It's P220572. It's replacement of light fleet program, and then later on we have another replacement of light fleet. and that was a rollover from the previous year. So we're going to replace a whole lot of light fleet. We're doing a depot review at the moment. I just want to know when this will happen, because we might look at what we do at the depot and think we may need to reconfigure some of the vehicles differently. So I'm just wondering, just an indication of when those vehicles would be bought, because we might, as I said, down the track decide we might want different vehicles if we change our model somehow. That's the question.
Through you, Mayor Karen. Look, traditionally the purchases of light fleet or heavy fleet have been in the latter half of the year. But I'm not sure, Wendy, if you want to provide any further update, but traditionally that's when those purchases have occurred. So there could be a synergy in terms of timing of the workforce review.
Next question. Just turn it on. Thank you, Paul.
The next one is the on-site renewable program, $150,000.
Which page is that?
It's on page 113 of 284.
Yep.
And it talks about putting a roof on Finnis Street car park. And that's fine. I mean, because we're going to look to see whether that's going to protect the building, because there's some issues there, I suppose. And then we're going to put solar panels on that roof. Is that 150? Does that include the roof, or is it only the panels out of that 150? And then I've got another question as well.
Paul?
Through you, Mayor Karen, I would assume that would be just the panels, but I may need to, Wendy's nodding her head, so yes.
Wendy?
Do you want me, just Councillor Koch, through you, Mayor Karen? So at the moment, we're doing the structural assessment of what we can feasibly do for a rooftop structure on that car park. So until I've completed that, I won't be able to advise on the cost for the structural component of that. So that is purely the solar cells.
Yep, that you just turned.
Oh, okay, the question I've got about the solar cells is that facility uses very little energy, I would imagine. It's just the lights. So if we put a lot of panels on, which during the day it's putting power into the grid where there's an excess of energy, we actually need the energy at night, I suppose. Does that include a battery or what? Because you can't move that power from there to somewhere else unless you've got a battery. You know, you can't put a cable over here to the admin centre.
I think the answer is no to a battery at this stage.
Yep. So I'm just wondering, so I hope we're going to do a business case study about putting solar panels on that structure.
Okay. Jack, did you want to respond to that?
Through the chair, the 8 kilowatt system for that Finnis Street car park is a relatively small system designed for the lighting, and hence what won't be used will be going back into the grid along the lines of what we're doing at Edmiston Gardens, a similar sort of identical, quite small.
8 kilowatts. Yeah. Okay.
No. That's for all those sites.
That's for the entire list. No,
okay.
it doesn't. No. Hang on. If you could turn yours off, Jack, and turn yours on. That's it.
The next one is the vehicle charging station. Is that a DC or an AC charger?
There we go. Don't turn it on. That's it. You're right.
Through the chair, AC, not DC.
Okay. Next.
Just to follow up on that, at our Electrical Vehicle Association meeting last week, we had representatives from the RAA discussing the rollout of the fast chargers. A question was asked about whether all the stations are set in concrete, and they said, no, it's fluid. They actually said it was fluid, which I thought was interesting. So we haven't got a fast charging boiler yet, but maybe they could go there. I mean, I don't know whether you can go onto the website.
Take that offline.
Yep,
That's
take it
something
offline.
Separate to the budget.
The next one is the Aquatic Center, and that's page 114 to 284.
14. Yep.
Yep, the Aquatic Center. What What investigations have happened already for that? In particular, we're actually operating outside of SA Health regulations at the moment. So what investigations have happened so far?
Through the chair, we continue to work within the guidelines that we have determined with SA Health, which are more stringent. So we're actually doing over the requirements of the regulations in terms of our water quality assessment monitoring. So we're exceeding what the regulations currently seek or ask for us to comply with. So we're doing a lot more in this space. Yeah.
Now, the question was, what investigations have occurred so far and the cost?
Through the chair, in relation to actually carrying out the testing or in relation to? Okay, through the chair again, we've actually met on site with the engineering company and we're still in a transition phase of discussing that with an engineering company to look at what would work, what wouldn't work, what do we need to actually maintain the water temperature and keeping it, at a temperature that's suitable, heating up, time, costs, etc. So very preliminary discussions at this stage.
Okay. How much of the $474,800 is being spent on consultants? Is it 50% or is it more than 50%?
Through the chair, the expectation would be that it would be significantly less than 50% until we actually work out what sort of infrastructure we need to purchase. But the expectation would be a significant part of any budget and budget allocation to that site will be for actual infrastructure. So the investigations we're doing at the moment with Bridgeford in regards to the heat pump and the suitability around for that is just over $10,000. So it is a small amount for what we're looking at the moment. But yeah, that will really come in terms of the financial hit will be in terms of purchase of infrastructure.
Right. That's a lot of money. Okay. Yep.
I'm looking at the Gawler East. I'm on page 116 of 284. It talks about purchasing 270 trees, the Gawler East Link Road. I thought we'd already planted the Gawler East Link Road.
Yeah. You just turned yourself off, Wendy. Just let me do it. Just let me do it. That's it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Through the chair, that isn't for the purchase of the trees. It's actually the carry forward of the remaining budget for the establishment maintenance only.
It says purchase and installation. It actually says purchase and installation of 270 mature trees.
So I can confirm though, it is not for the purchase because they have already been purchased and installed. This is purely the last 6 months of the establishment maintenance through the LCS contractor. So we need to amend that in the wording.
Thank you. Might want to actually be mindful of that because it says purchase. Yep. Thank you. Any other
Yep.
questions?
Yep. Yeah, this is probably my last one.
Which page are you on?
121 of 284.
121?
Yep.
Sure.
Yep.
No problem.
This is it's below the line. It's energy efficiency upgrade program. If you're looking at saving energy, the best way of doing it is not consuming energy. So I don't know. I have
Below
trouble.
the line. It's below the line.
I know it is. I just want some rationale why it wasn't above the line, because the best way to save energy is not use it. If you have an efficiency program, you use less energy, so you don't have to buy more solar panels, for example. So I just want a comment. That was all.
Anyone prepared to comment on that?
If not, just say it.
Anyone? I don't mind who comments.
Through the chair, the upgrade program was looking at the current old HVAC systems that we have in the organisation. And of course, to update those, it didn't make it above the line. So it's remained below the line and will be looked at in the future.
Thank you. Okay. Okay, if we can just move up, ladies, so I can see. Okay, any other discussion? Councillor Shanks.
Yeah, just a question through you, Chair, to Mr. Horwood. So if I'm on page 73 of 284, capital works and new initiatives. There's a.
We can just find the page, sorry,
No,
so that we can all be there.
Yeah, absolutely.
74, and there's a pie graph.
73, sorry, of 280.
73.
Yeah.
Okay, yep.
There's a table there noted capital works and new initiatives 2022, 2023. That final figure is 13,651,66.
Yeah.
Does that include, excuse my ignorance here, the rollover of 5.8 million worth of projects that we weren't able to complete last year?
It's not in, that's a yes.
That's a yes. So new initiatives in next financial year is more like 8 million something, which is pretty much half what the budget of new initiatives capital works was in the previous year.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, no worries.
Yep, that's right.
So can I speak
Absolutely.
to this? Yep. Yeah, look, it probably won't surprise members, and I once again apologise to Paul Horde and the team, because it's not their fault what they put forward. I guess what the budget process to me and capturing my name on this spend, I'd have to be able to be comfortable with every single spend. What I'm trying to point out with the fact that our new initiative and our capital works is actually half purely on what we said we were going to do last financial year, which, you know, roughly, if you look at it, we wanted to achieve a $16 million capital works project. That didn't quite work. I've already had my concerns and my disappointment with that, so I won't go back into that. But now this year, what we're saying is we're going to now invest $8 million in these capital works and new initiatives. Now that's the fundamental levels that you hear me speak of. Now, not only are we doing that and catching up on bottleneck work, we're also now increasing rates. Now, I get the industry restraints, I get material price hikes, I get it so much because I work with it daily. The things that then come through on a local government level, I can't accept that everything's running as smoothly as what I'd like to be able to approve these sorts of expenditures. And again, it's not a crack at staff putting this all together. It's trying to understand a spend that is associated directly with my own name. If I'm signing off on a tender that an estimator's done in the business that I work in, I understand to the dollar where my overs and unders are. I request that most budget processes, notably, you've probably seen my absence in some of the workshops that, again, I thank staff for, and I apologise for my absence there. There were some unforeseen circumstances, but it doesn't change the fundamental reason I can't justify raising rates when I have so many ratepayers questioning so many simple things. And unfortunately, I'm no closer to being able to provide my confidence in signing this off and moving forward. I know that is not the popular sentiment in the council, in this chamber. And look, I get that, and I don't mean to offend, but when it's my name on something, there's a level of scrutiny that I need to get to, and we're just not there. I get the workshops, I get the meetings, I get the special meetings, but we're not unpacking to the level that would provide me the comfort of going to my ratepayers and say, you know how you're not happy with this, 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 and this? Well, we're going to slug you an extra 3.5%. And also those projects that we promised for last year are actually going to be this year, hopefully. So again, my apologies, but yeah, we're still not there for me to provide my name. If this was a recommendation to endorse a staff budget, there's a difference, but it's not. It's an ownership of this chamber, these elected members in conjunction with, and I'm not across it to the level I need to be.
Councillor Koch.
Yeah, look, I'm happy to support this. I mean, I've come to every workshop. I've read every document. I've asked questions tonight. I asked a lot of questions. I got answered. I reckon I've put in the scrutiny required to put my name on this. This is a council endorsed budget. It's not a staff budget. The staff put up recommendations. They assist us. We make the decisions. If we don't pass this budget, the whole council stops functioning. It stops tomorrow. It's that crucial. So I'm quite happy to, yeah, look, I'm happy to support this. Anybody in the public that want to come and talk to me about any line items, I'm quite happy to talk about it because I've read them all. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Councillor Shanks is talking about the fact that we're putting council rates up, but we're only doing half the value in new upgrades. If I'm correct, last year our upgrades were enormous because we had we were given stimulus package to spend money to spend. We haven't got that this year, so therefore we can't spend it. We have to be doing less. Well, first of all, we overextended probably for the amount of work that had to be done within the 12-month period. But we haven't got that stimulus package. So therefore, we haven't got that amount of money to spend anyway. And the council rates didn't go up. I'm trying to get this out correctly. The council rates didn't go up because we spent all that extra money. That was stimulus money that was given to us. So it wasn't part. Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
Yeah. Thank you. Any other discussion? If not, Deputy Mayor, wish to close the debate, please.
Yeah, just briefly, I think we've had really good debate on this tonight, which has been really good. I do think it's really important to take an active part in the whole budget process, and I think staff have been fantastic with sending reminder emails and reminding us to actually put extra bids in if we need to, or I found that support was really good and helpful. And yeah, I think they went up above and beyond for this budget. And yeah, I don't always expect them to always be chasing councillors up for information, but I think it has been a two-way street this time. So yeah, I really think it's been a good working relationship with staff and councillors, and it's a difficult process. We never get exactly what we want as councillors, and we've always got members of the community after extra resources in their areas and their suburbs, and it's a difficult balancing act. But I do think we do go and try and deliver a lot of projects, and sometimes those projects are then delivered in July, August. We've also seen massive price increases as well, and I think the staff have been really diligent in actually making sure that we're not paying way and beyond on some of these projects, which has actually meant some of them are delayed while we try and get fairer pricing, which I think is better for our whole community as well. So we don't keep paying more and getting less. I think it's been quite difficult to deliver projects, and staffing and everything else. So I do thank the staff for all the efforts, because it's not an easy, and it has been, I think, really ambitious, the programs for the last couple of years. And we put extra stimulus package money in, which has cost us. And I think that we've delivered a lot of really good works in our community, and I think overall we should be really proud of what we delivered. So I just ask all councillors to support this motion.
I'm going to put that motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. All those against, it is carried. Thank you. I'd like to put, beg your pardon? Deputy Mayor Hughes has called a division. All those in favour, please stand up and I'll call your name out. All those against, please stay seated. All those in favour are Councillor Davies, Councillor Koch, Deputy Mayor Hughes, Councillor Samble, Councillor Fraser. Please stay standing. All those against are Councillor Shanks. The motion is carried. Thank you. And I'd just like to congratulate Mr Paul Horwood on his final budget for his time at council. Thank you very much for all your service, Paul. It's been outstanding. Thank you. Okay, so we'll keep moving. Oh, and the whole team, of course. There's no I in team, is there? No. Apologies for that. So 8.5, declaration of rates and charges. Now we're going to take out, with your discretion, we'll do, because 0.9, if we, we'll need to move 0.9 separately. So if we can have somebody, if somebody's happy to, move the officer's recommendation excluding 0.9. You happy to do that? So we're not doing 0.9 yet. Councillor Fraser, are you happy to move that? But we're going to, I think we've got an adjusted numbers. Have you put them up, minute takers? Yes. So as against what's in our packet, we were given some late rates and charges that Paul did circulate by email, and it has been adjusted, I think. Is that correct, ladies? Yes. One more adjustment. So we're just doing excluding 0.9 at this stage. You've taken 0.9 out, ladies? Thank you very much. Thank you for that. So Paul, where's the final adjustment in this? Thank you, Paul.
Thank you, through you, Mayor Karen.
Yes.
Item 14, the table relative to alteration of general rates for commercial and industrial properties.
Yep.
I just noticed the bottom right hand corner, for the $5 million plus, the effective net general rate.
Yep.
Should be 0.011460, not 0.00.
So 0.011460, so
Yes,
get rid of a zero.
Just remove one of the zeros, Mayor.
That's correct. Ladies are on the ball as usual. Right. Okay, any other adjustments, Paul, at this stage?
Through you, Mayor, with numbers 7, I think it may have been adjusted already. The separate rate for town centre business development marketing needs to be 0.065357.
0.065357. Have you included that? 065357. That's correct up there.
Yep.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. So excluding 0.9, and we'll do 0.9 separately. Do I have a mover for this officer's recommendation? Deputy Mayor, do you wish to speak?
Yeah, I'm happy to move this motion. I think it's fairly self-explanatory. It sort of is the nuts and bolts of our rating system and how we collect from our ratepayers. And yeah, I also, I do say this fairly often, the differential rates, I think, also makes a bit of fairness across the commercial sector, which I think is really quite innovative, and yeah, it really works really well too. So yeah, happy to support the motion.
Do I have a seconder for this motion? Councillor Koch. Thank you. Any discussion? Councillor Shanks.
Yeah, look, obviously this is a flow on from the last motion, and this is by accepting this, we're accepting those price increases for our ratepayers. And I get why. And look, I'm here to speak on behalf of the people that put me in the seat and reach out to me. And unfortunately, I don't have those happy ratepayers that some of the others in the chamber have on what they're receiving for their money. I have ratepayers that are fed up, unfortunately, with some ways things operate. And unfortunately, I just can't justify a rate increase in regards to some of the very real frustrations that I see flow through. Again, it's what we're here to do, is represent the people that come forward, and this is all part of that. We're trying to up those rates to cover those costs, and some of those costs I don't think are really being accepted or really understood to a level. So again, back on the last item, this is a part of that, and I can't support it.
Any other discussion? If not, Deputy Mayor, are you happy for me to put the motion? I'll put that motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. All those against, it is carried. Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Shanks. Councillor Shanks has called a division. All those in favour, please stand up and I'll call your name. All those against, please stay seated. All those in favour are Councillor Davies, Councillor Koch, Deputy Mayor Hughes, Councillor Samble, Councillor Fraser. All those against are Councillor Shanks. Thank you. The motion is carried. Thank you very much. So next we'll move item 9 now. Deputy Mayor, you wish to declare a conflict?
Yes, it's perceived conflict. I'm an employee of the Northern York Landscape Board, and I'll be dealing with the matter by leaving the room.
Thank you. He declared a perceived conflict and he'll deal with the matter by leaving the room. Thank you very much. Okay, so now we have a separate rate for state government regional landscapes levy. Are you happy to move that way, Councillor Koch?
Look, yeah, I'm happy to move this. Bruce, a couple of years ago, they changed the NRM to the landscape boards. A bit messy, maybe not the best outcome for our community, although we are getting funds from the landscape board. And I suppose that the best thing that the Northern York board does is the Great Southern Arc, where they're rewilding the bottom of the York Peninsula. So that's worth it. Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder for that? You happy to second, Councillor Davies? Do you wish to speak at all? Any discussion? If there's no further discussion, I'll put that motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. All those against, it is carried. Thank you. If somebody can ask, thank you, Lakesh. If you can bring the Deputy Mayor back to the meeting. Now we're moving on to 8.6. I'll wait for the Deputy Mayor to come back. Where'd he go? It's gone. Here it comes. So I'm on page 37 of our agenda, which is the monthly finance report. And there's a very brief recommendation detailing a favourable operating budget of a variance of $725,000 to be noted. Somebody happy to move that? You happy, Deputy Mayor? Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Samble, any discussion? Councillor Davies.
So just in terms of depreciation charges not yet generated due to delay in completion of capital works. So is this just understanding this as is it sort of, so it's not some of these, I guess, savings and some of these not savings, but are just things that are being pushed to another year?
It's a favourable variance. Thank you.
Through you, Mayor Karen, relative to the depreciation, that's really just a timing saving at this stage.
And I guess, does it result in an actual an actual savings cost in, you know, in the sense that I guess you're, I don't know, a couple of years later, starting the depreciation, for example, does that lead to a, I imagine smaller, but actual like savings?
Mr. Hall?
Through you, Mayor Karen. When I say there's a year-to-date saving with depreciation, that's you're due to the delay in completion of the capital works, which will be obviously finalised as part of the year-end result for 30 June. So in future years, if that's what you're referring to, Councillor Davies, this is really just a sort of one-off timing variation for this financial year, not a flow-on for future years, just due to timing there.
Thank you. Any other discussion? If not, you happy for me to put the motion, Deputy Mayor? I'll put that motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Carried unanimously. Moving on to 8.7. Yes, Deputy Mayor, you happy to move that way?
Yeah, I think this is a good way forward. I went through the sort of the arrangements that are being had. It is a really good news story, the extra money. The only concern is the $1 million towards the soccer pitch, but meaning that we do need to find probably another $1.5 million or more.
Yeah.
So you know, 0.5 looks at that extra funding, but reading the arrangements, we do have to accept this money, and I think it's the way forward, and you know, we can work towards getting some other grants and working with our stakeholders. I think this is it is a really good news story for these sporting clubs as well. So yeah, happy to support it.
You happy to second that? If you second it, and you can ask a question at the same time.
Peter seconded.
Thank you.
I would like a question. Are we going to be able to do the net, considering the cost of things going up all the time, are we going to be able to do the netball courts for the 4.8 million or not?
Mr. Barrett?
So through the chair, until we have detailed design done and a full cost estimate, which is a year or so away, we won't know the final cost impact. We have the opportunity to negotiate with the state government around reducing scope on that project to bring it into the $4.8 million cost. However, we won't know until the detailed design is done. We only have that very high level cost estimate at the moment, which sits at 4.8 for the project, but noting cost of materials and all those things at the moment, we expect it to be higher, but we do have that scope reduction opportunity in the future as well.
A follow-up question from what you've just said. This is obviously over a 2-year period.
So through the chair, the netball courts is more likely over a 3-year financial period.
I think that answers your questions, Di. Thank you. Any other, Councillor Shanks?
Yeah, look, I'm all for it. I think I completely agree with Deputy Mayor that it is a good news story. It's one of those rare sort of occasions where we do benefit financially from a change in government. And this is following through some of those promises that are being honoured. So the sporting precinct there that is coming, you know, leaps and bounds in the Carpathian Reserve there, the synthetic soccer pitch, the netball club, like all these additions that we can really cash in on, not only helps us work collaboratively with the current state government, but it also injects money into these sorts of hubs that communities thrive in. So yeah, I'm really happy to support this. I do just caution the timing, but there's not much we can do because yeah, we don't know what the prices are doing in a year's time. You don't know what they're doing in 18 months time. So in this current industry, it is really, really difficult to turn around and say the scope now, what we can get with $4.8 million, it might change considerably in 12 months time, 6 months time even. So yeah, look, the work's cut out there, but it's in our best interest to act as efficiently and as quickly as we possibly can.
Thank you. If there's no further discussion, Deputy Mayor, are you happy for me to put the motion or put that motion? All those in favour, please raise your hands. Carried unanimously. Thank you. Now moving on to 8.8, Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, I'm happy to move this motion. I think there's some extra wording in there about working with the Regional Development Board and the Gawler Business Development Group. And I think it's be good to actually get these regular reports back to us about the operations and about how this new arrangement goes with staff. And I think this is a balanced way forward. And Joe, it's something that probably the future council would also then sort of monitor and then adapt as well. So I think this is a good starting point, and it keeps council with some control of the hub, and also allows some extra work with the partners, which I think is really important, and trying to get that broadness and working across the whole arrangement working well. So I think that that's going to be a really good governance model as well. So we've actually got some governance through the council program and the reporting back. And I think that will support different interests and even hopefully reduce conflicts and things like that as well. So I think it's a balanced approach to go this way.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder for this motion? You happy to second? Thank you. Do you wish to speak at all, Dora?
Yes, I am happy to second that. I listened to Louise Drummond's thing, but there's no way that we could jump into something like that. It has to be worked through, and we are here to sort things out for the 22-23. If they were to take over, it'd probably take 12 months to work out how it was going to happen anyway. So I don't think that's something that we could jump into at all. I'm happy with this.
Discussion. Councillor Shanks.
Yeah, we deferred this from the previous meeting, and not much to me has changed, to be honest. There's a couple of things that aren't working in our favour out in our business community. And again, I'm here to pass on the feedback that I'm hearing out there. And we don't have too many wins in the business community eyes when it comes to app, it comes to wayfinding signs, it comes to business innovation hub. It's not constructive in being able to work with our local businesses with some of those pursued projects that we know have not quite been as expected. And then also on top of that, we also have the Gawler Business Development Group pointing out that the 2-day consideration that they'll be able to come in and assist is not necessarily in stone, and that assistance isn't necessarily what is being reported here. I'm not confident in this, only because the business model on what we actually want from innovation and businesses we have in the hub and so forth is really the private enterprise sphere. And from what is being seen when we dip into that, I again am not confident that what is said here is something that will be fully delivered as promised. And yeah, I'm saddened to say it, but unfortunately there are a couple of items that have cemented this position. I like the idea of Gawler businesses having a buy-in on a business innovation hub. I started a business in Gawler, and I would have loved the assistance that something like that would have been able to give me. I also understand what it is to be a immature business, for lack of a better term, and grow into maturity. I'm skeptical that local government that's in their remit. And I mean that not with malice intent. I mean, local government have their lane, and every time we seem to get into the private enterprise lane, something doesn't quite work. Gawler Business Development Group do have a good following, and they're only growing, as we all admit every time they come in for their presentations. I don't necessarily think I'm willing to chuck up an amendment to this motion that completely gifts it to the Gawler Business Development Group. I think there's more to unpack. And that's the same sentiment that was there last month. There's more to be done. And the business pitches that we had from the RDA, and we've seen, I think, emailed through from the Gawler Business Development Group, are more aligned with the modelling of taking over something like this and the experience that is in that group. This is another report on sort of running through as business as usual. Also, I'm a little bit skeptical on the, we're just absorbing the staffing costs, so therefore it's a cost neutral. I understand we're managing it now, but surely there's a saving by taking that off our plate. So look, this current one, by not supporting it, we keep on running in the administration side and managing while we're still trying to figure out what's the best model, the best look, because we can't afford to get it wrong again. So I don't see the harm of letting us keep on operating as usual, because there is no harm in doing that and making sure that we are making the right decisions.
Any other discussion, Councillor Koch? Got your hand up?
Yep, well, I'll be supporting this. I think this is a good model because it involves the Gawler Business Development Group and the RDA and Council. This was from the Gawler Business Development Group, this was a non-solicited bid, basically. And if you add up all the figures, you're probably looking over $100,000 because it's $50,000 to run the hub. They also want to collect all the fees and then reinvest that into the members. So that's the other 42. And then you're looking at the other things like colour printing, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So you're looking at a cost of well over $100,000 as an unsolicited bid to start with. Something like that really should go to tender for, because we've got a procurement policy we need to follow. So just in that effect, it's probably not appropriate. It's actually in the Gawler Business Development Group's charters to assist their members. So if a member is a startup in the hub, it's within their charter to actually support them. So they're actually required under the charter, because Louise actually talked tonight about home-based businesses. They're startups. They're little startups, but they're not in the hub, but they're startups. So she was saying that she's supporting those people who are working from home to get their businesses going, which would be exactly the same as if somebody's in the hub. So I couldn't quite reconcile that, why that wouldn't happen if that home business was in the hub. But anyway, I'm quite happy with this. I think it's a good way forward. And as I said, it brings in, the best of, the RDA, the Gawler Business Development Board and the council having that ownership and responsibility of how it's governed and run. So I'm happy to support it. Thank you.
Any other discussion? If not, Deputy Mayor, are you happy for me to put the motion? I'm going to put that motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. All those against? It is carried on the casting vote of the Mayor. Thank you, everyone. Division? Thank you. Councillor Shanks has called a division. All those in favour, please stand. Call your names out. All those against, please stay seated. So all those in favour are Councillor Koch, Deputy Mayor Hughes, Councillor Fraser. All those against are Councillor Davies, Councillor Shanks and Councillor Samble. The motion is carried on the casting vote of the Mayor. Thank you very much. Now, it's 9 o'clock. I think we need a small break. So why don't we have a break and we'll come back at 9:10. Thank you.
He does most of the physical work. Oh, every time. Now, I want you to know.
Going down. He's got to play a game of Billy. He's a gorgeous guy. He's really nice. Really nice. Okay, I think we'll get back cracking. Okay, thank you, Councillor Samble. If everyone can take their seats, thank you very much. Lovely. Okay, I'm on page 52 of the agenda. Yes, are you happy to move that way, Deputy Mayor? Thank you.
Yeah, just briefly, I think this is a really good outcome, and I think shifting the money from the Carlton Road to help this out. I was quite surprised how much has been allocated to Carlton Road, so I think this balances things out and actually gets that range of ages and caters for the community there, and it's a really good outcome through the consultation. It's not a huge amount of ratepayers that gave feedback, but I think it's a really good outcome and covers off and addresses a few issues out there, which is really good for that community in that estate. So no, I'm happy to move.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Shanks, you happy to second?
Yeah, look, I'm really excited to see some movement in this space. I mean, you've heard the disappointment of when this project's been rolled into and we didn't get it done this financial year. That all aside, moving forward, I think this report is being well received. I have been sharing it through the networks that bring this to our attention back in 2019. Which you remember was some of the work that I was doing with them and brought it into the chamber, and here we are. This result is actually better than what was initially talked about. We were talking about a playground that was a bit more user friendly for the kids in the estate and the rest of Gawler. I'm a father of now 2 that I change up which playground areas I go to. And we were talking about a fenced area on the main playground area near the volume of the water near Greenland Boulevard. But now we're actually talking about upgrading the other play area that's based back. I think that's fantastic because that's a good initiative that's run through, and the initiative that's been followed through, which I'm now seeing from Hayley, was from Jordan Duke, who has left us as well. But it has always been well received and well communicated in the way of the markups, the visual presentations, the meetings with people in the area. Would have I loved it to be acted on a little bit quicker? Of course. Am I really happy with this outcome and willing to wait a few more months to get this right? Yes. Now I've seen this report, I'm really happy, and it's been positively received from the people in that area, which is the main thing. So yeah, look, I'm looking forward to some long overdue outcomes for this area, and yeah, look forward to taking my daughters to play on the outcomes.
So on point 2, we need to add an S in Green Slade because it's Green Lade at the moment. Thank you. Councillor Kosh, you had your hand up.
Yeah, look, I'm happy to support this. When I went and looked at the site, I felt that the 2 sites actually almost replicated each other with the types of playground equipment. So moving some from one to the other one and creating more of a nature play, I think that's a really good idea, and really it gives a nice balance. Yeah, so I think it's a good outcome.
Any other discussion? If not, Deputy Mayor, you happy for me to put the motion? I'll put that motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Carried unanimously. Thank you. So now I'm on page 64. Okay. Happy to move that way, Deputy Mayor? Yep. Thank you.
Yeah, it's fairly procedural and some updates with the code of practice, but yeah, it's fairly standard. So, and yeah, the emergency declaration is finished.
Yes, no more Zooms for council meetings. Do I have a seconder for this? Happy to second that, Councillor Fraser. Thank you. Any discussion? Councillor Davis.
Yeah, look, not that there's anything we can do about it, but I was sad to see the ability for a council member to participate electronically to stop. I think we're still, well, I think perhaps the state government should just permanently update their laws to reflect the modern era. But I think especially in the current time, there's still situations where someone could be isolating at home and could be perfectly able to attend a council meeting, except that they can't go, you know, either for COVID or even just if they have a cold or something and don't want to spread it, they had the option during the emergency declaration to stay at home but participate in the meeting, and now they are no longer able to. So I think that was a beneficial, I guess, unintended side effect of the emergency declaration that I hope can be enshrined back into the law.
Thank you. Any other discussion, councillor Shanks?
Just some clarity. We've seen a little bit of email exchange about deputations. What is the process there? We're requesting people to put in a deputation 7 days before the meeting. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So how does one put in a deputation in advance that they aren't aware of what item they might want to speak again?
That would be public open forum. So they could speak on a matter that might be on the agenda, and they don't need to let council know, they can just come to the meeting.
And talk to that one point. So I guess, yeah, something with the deputation, I sort of like the deputation process to a degree, because we understand when people are speaking to one particular item. Public open forum, we sort of get a barrage of whoever wants to speak to anything realistically. So I see the formal process of the deputation. I just see it not being utilised to the full potential if people have to give notice before they understand what is on the agenda. And given the agendas are now coming out Friday nights, I mean, we used to get them on Thursdays, but now that's gone back to the Friday. So yeah, I'm not in support of the deputation side. The other stuff is procedural, and I'm like Councillor Davies, I'm a little bit disappointed that we can't zoom in because that does actually give the option of people that are in isolation or crook or whatever that do want to participate to actually still contribute to their role.
The current deputation is 14 days.
Yeah, I know, and I saw that 2 weeks, and I do know that we've made some exceptions, which has been well received. I think that's good. And I do note that a council and a committee may resolve to allow a deputation. I just feel like it could be a little bit neater. The 14 days I don't agree with for the same reason. So yeah, I probably won't be supporting it just for those main reasons.
Any other discussion, councillor Koch?
Look, yeah, I mean, I've got a clear distinction between what a deputation is and what open forum is. Deputation is usually a larger item that somebody wants to bring to council's notice, and it's planned and it's, well researched, and there's usually some information that goes with it, and it's on the agenda, and it's good. Public open forum is somebody that looks at the agenda and says, oh, look, I need to talk about this, or I need to talk about something else, and they can come and talk. They've got their 5 minutes, etc. That's fine. So for me, I see the deputation is completely different to the public open forum, because everybody can turn up and talk in public open forum anyway. Thank you.
If there's no further discussion, Deputy Mayor, you happy for me to put the motion? I'm going to put that motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. All those against? It's carried. Thank you. Now we're on 8.11, and I need to declare a perceived conflict in regards to point 3. I'm a member of the Gay Rock Committee. It is a perceived conflict. I will be staying in the room and making decisions in the best interests of the Gawler community. So that's how I will deal with that particular conflict. Okay, so with point 3, I would suggest we don't talk about region, because if we talk about region, if it's going to go up to an AGM, it needs to be South Australia, because if it's just our region, they're not going to be interested, even though it's a really important subject matter. So I would suggest that we, after the words related service, needs across South Australia, but there also needs to be some further wordsmithing for the background information, because that's very focused on Gawler and Barossa, and I just think that CEO, can you suggest any further word changes so that we can adjust that background to make it more of a South Australian focus rather than just a Gawler, Barossa, Light and Malabar focus?
Yeah, through the chair, where we say endorse the following motion, maybe we could include endorse the following motion and accompanying information as amended to be presented to the meeting at Gay Rock, which would then allow us, relative to what you've just suggested there, Mayor, would enshrine and adapt it from a regional, from a state perspective.
Yeah, I think it's really important, because if we go in talking about regions, they'll go, which region? Oh, your region. Well, why is it here? It shouldn't even be here. It should be just at Garrock. If we want to take it to the state level, then it needs to be a broad brush. It's a really important, I think it'll get broadly supported. I challenge any council not to support improving mental health outcomes and suicide prevention. But I think we need to just get some minor tweaks to the background information, and I think it'll be well supported. So that was just my comments around that. Okay. Anybody wishing to, Deputy Mayor, you happy to move that way?
Yeah, I'm happy to move the motion with those amendments. I think the plan that's come back that has been updated has taken on some of the feedback that we've provided, which is really good. It is a good document. It does highlight some of our major issues quite well. It is a sort of a joint effort with the state and federal government and local government also trying to help things along. But yeah, it is a better document that's come through as well. So I'm happy to support.
It was really pleasing to see that mental health is really starting to get some traction, particularly in these major plans. That was a really strong focus in the public meeting that I went to. I know other people went to different meetings, but I think mental health is starting to be recognised as a major issue, not just here, but right across the region. It is a major concern, yeah, and it needs to improve. You happy to second? Do you wish to speak at all, Councillor Davies?
Yeah, look, I'm always happy to support better mental health outcomes and suicide prevention. I think mental health is something that is still needs to be better understood in a lot of ways. I mean, look, you know, the recent situation with Dr. Naomi Rudden and her mental health clinic sort of led to a range of sort of ideas of what a mental health clinic could be, that sort of, you know, took me by surprise, because I guess for me, I just think of mental health as, you know, something like 20% of people in any given year are going to be dealing with anxiety, depression.
It's more than that.
It's more, yeah. It's 30%. I'm trying to remember the exact figures, but
it's 1 in 3.
1 in 3, yeah. In any given year. And, you know, it's just something that we need to understand that it is a very normal, it is a type of health. I think there'd be no dramas about someone opening a fracture clinic, for example, in the town. You know, a leg health clinic is not a surprise, but I think, you know, mental health just still needs a lot of better understanding in some ways.
Thank you. Any other discussion on this matter? Councillor Koch.
Yeah, you've got to be supporting this. I think that the plan has evolved over the years to be something that's more reasonable. When it first came out, I can't remember if it was 6 or 7 years ago. Yeah, I remember we went through the concept.
It was longer than that. It was
yeah,
8, 9
so.
years ago.
Yeah, it was a long time ago. Anyway, it really put a lot of responsibilities onto councils and unrealistic expectations, and you know, what councils had to do and how they're going to measure this, that, and the other, and was unrealistic. And we pushed it back against that. We said no. We pushed back against that. Said no, we need this rewritten, which we did, and we made it more palatable for our community. and more reasonable from a council's point of view when it comes to resources. Because before the first one, it really was a lot of the issues were state and federal responsibilities and the pushing on to councils. I mean, when we look at things like obesity and fitness and health issues, or etc., I mean, the big issue really is it's dominated by vested interests with, you know, lobbying, you know, tobacco industry, fast food, you know, all of that, gambling, and that's something we can't do much about because that is so pervasive in our community and so well resourced. Those industries don't spend all that money. If it's not going to work, it does work. So a lot of the issues that we read about in this report, you can really go back to what's happening at that marketing level. And really that's probably a federal government area that they need to legislate around, you know, around sugar, around tobacco, obviously tobacco, around gambling, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's not something we can do. We can do what we can do, and the federal government needs to come to the party as well. So I'm happy where it sits at the moment. It is a collaboration, but I really would like to see the federal government, you know, stump up and actually start tackling those big issues, because things won't go away when you've got these big monopolies, you know, these big industries marketing to everybody, you know, from child right to when we're ready to fall off the perch. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Councillor Shanks.
Yeah, I'm really happy with us moving forward with this. The thing that actually attracts me the most to this is not only the plan, but the motion we're looking at supporting. Each family, each person will have their own experience with mental health outcomes. I know our family is dealing with something at the moment, and it's really sort of bizarre that I see this motion pop up when it has. But I believe that putting it in the forefront and talking things through is sort of our only ammunition on being able to curb some of the outcomes that some families have to deal with. And putting up these motions in Garrock is all a part of that. Endorsing a plan, working collaboratively within the region, within the state is all part of that. There is lacking support in these areas, and it has been quite obvious for a long time now. We have got a little bit of movement in this space, but it's not enough and it's not quick enough. Doing everything, pulling all the strings that we can is what we can do, and it might it might curb some of the pain that some families have to go through.
Any other discussion? If not, Deputy Mayor, you happy for me to put the motion? I'm going to put that motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Carried unanimously. Thank you. So there's no information reports. We're moving on to recommendations from committees, and I'm on page 78. Oh, authorisation. I skipped it. How did I do that? Right, 8.12. 73. You happy to move that way, Deputy Mayor? Do I have a seconder? Councillor Shanks, thank you. Any discussion? Not, I'm going to put that motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Carried unanimously. Thank you. Okay. So Gawler Heritage Collection Committee meeting. And we've got a couple of motions. Oh, I missed one. Have I gone? Oh, sorry. Jumping ahead. Okay. 10.1. So recommendations from the Gawler Youth Advisory Committee. Appointment of members. You happy to move that way, Councillor Davies? Seconded by Deputy Mayor. Do you wish to speak at all?
Yeah, so just to say, thanks to Grace, who's retiring from the committee, and the 3 that are being appointed are being reappointed. They're all people who've been quite active recently. Renee and Jack were the previous year's chair and deputy chair of the committee, and Amelia is currently the new deputy chair. So I'm glad to see a range of people coming in and taking leadership roles within the YAC and extending their appointments for another 2 years.
Any other discussion? If not, I'm going to put that motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Carried unanimously. Thank you. Youth Development Officer update. Happy to move that way, Councillor Shanks. Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Davies. Any discussion? If not, I'm going to put that motion. All those in favour, carried unanimously. Single-use plastics. Motion there in front of you. Recommendation. You happy to move, Deputy Mayor? Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Shanks. Thank you. Any discussion? If not, I'll put that motion. All those in favour, carried unanimously. Thank you. Now we're on to Gawler Heritage Collection, and we have 2 motions made under delegated authority for noting. Thank you for moving, Councillor Koch. Do I have a seconder? Deputy Mayor. Any discussion? If not, I'll put that motion. All those in favour, carried unanimously. Thank you. Heritage Collection Policy Review. We're adopting the recommendation from the Heritage Committee, moved by Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Koch. Any discussion? If not, I'll put that motion. All those in favour, carried unanimously. Collection acquisitions. The number of acquisitions. We're asking to adopt the recommendation. Do I have a mover for that? Thank you, Councillor Fraser, seconded by Councillor Koch. Any discussion? If not, I'll put that motion. All those in favour, carried unanimously. Thank you. Deaccessioning report, furniture. You happy to move that way, Councillor Fraser? You happy to second, Councillor Koch? Any discussion? If not, I'll put that motion. All those in favour, carried unanimously. Thank you. Moving over to the Infrastructure and Environmental Services Committee. We have a couple of motions for noting. How do you wish to proceed? You happy to? Not that one, but we'll get there. Yep, not that, nearly there. 10.3. You happy to move that way? Thank you, Councillor Davies, seconded by Councillor Koch. Any discussion? If not, I'll put that motion. All those in favour, carried unanimously. Thank you. 10.3.1. This is a recommendation. You happy to move that way, Deputy Mayor? Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Davies. Any discussion? If not, I'll put that motion. All those in favour, carried unanimously. Thank you. Clonley Reserve Dog Park update. You happy to move that way, Councillor Fraser? Do I have a second, Councillor Koch? Any discussion? Councillor Davies first.
Just a note that I have been getting some feedback about very muddy, large dog areas recently. So I don't know what that means in terms of having to, when it needs to be closed off for treatment or that kind of thing, but I'm just curious if staff had any update on that.
Is that your portfolio, Wendy? It's very muddy. It's almost unusable.
I'll have to take it on notice. It's the first I've been made aware, so I'll get back to you with what we need to do.
The water areas where the taps are also very muddy as well. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Last time this happened, they created that extra area which is still there, and they opened that area and closed that other area off. It took about 6 months and then it came back, but it's it's a popular park.
Right,
Yeah.
leave it with me.
Okay, thank you. We'll take that on notice. Thank you. That's Koch.
Yeah, look, I just say, I mean, I went up and had a look at today and it is muddy.
Mm.
And I spoke to some people with their dogs and they said, look, it's very busy. Sometimes on Sundays we might have 30 dogs there. So that's 35 kilos of dog running around that small area. Of course, it gets all wrecked. And people were saying, yeah, we really quite like that open area because the dogs can run. You know, so it's just switching those two around. And the only thing people did say was that with the bigger area, the temporary area, they said that some dogs got grass seeds in their ears and bingies. So there might need to be some management programs to get over that. But when I spoke to people, people were quite happy to switch them around. But anyway, that'll come through the consultation process.
Okay, thank you.
Mm.
Thank you. Any other discussion? If not, I'll put that motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Carried unanimously. Thank you. This is your conflict.
Yes, I have a perceived conflict in 10.3.3. I have a relative who resides in Charles Street, but I will be staying in the room.
Yeah, but it also talks about Charles Street in point 3. Yeah. Okay, so you happy to move that way? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, as you know, this is one that I brought to the chamber, and I'm really happy with the outcome here because the main concern was in the area that has been picked up by staff. I know there was some concerns on street trees and everything like that, and the outcome here is meant we're able to get around the street trees, provide that service level. I think you recall we had a complaint where a mother in a pram had to pretty much bail off Edith Street because a car came around the corner. Now, that's not necessarily, that would have been fantastic if the driver wasn't driving like that. But that said, there was also another list of concerns of when school was out, people walking through the road. I was talking to my wife the other day about this, and she was walking from our house on Haynes Road up to my mother-in-law's house, and she did exactly that, pushing the pram with my 11-week-old and my daughter on the scooter across Edward Street on the road because there wasn't the footpaths to do it as they go up Jane Street. Now that's beautifully resealed. That's easier to scoot on, apparently. So this is just aligning with the upgrades there, taking some safety concerns. And if you remember, I moved the motion strategically to allow 18 months of resolution because, you know, I note that it was on the list to be done at some stage. There was no argument there, but I also purposely did 18 months to allow staff 2 budget cycles to see how we make that happen. The outcome here, moving the funding from another area that doesn't necessarily want that level of service, it also works well. So I'm happy with the recommendation. I've literally just now said the notes that I had for the IES that I was an apology for. So.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Samble, thank you. Any discussion? If not, I'm going to put that motion. All those in favour of the motion, please raise your hands. Carried unanimously. Thank you. Policy review. You happy to move, Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Fraser. Any discussion? If not, I'm going to put that motion. All those in favour? All those against? Carried. Thank you. Draft Town Centre Parking Strategy. Deputy Mayor moved. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Fraser. Any discussion? Deputy Mayor, yep, as the mover.
Yeah, just briefly, I thought there was a really good discussion at the IS and just even talking about options of putting second story on different car parks and things like that, which was really, I think, really important for the town. So no, it was a good meeting.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Councillor Shanks.
Yeah, when I watched that back, I actually concur. There is some outside of the box thinking, I think, that can be done with our current infrastructure. I mean, we don't have a lot of land central to the main street, which is where everyone wants to park, but there's definitely solutions to that. Councils are doing these single-story decks above existing land already, and what that does is pretty much double the capacity of that particular car park. We have the one behind Woolworths on Reed Street, for example. We have the finished street one that maybe, who knows, that might support another deck. I know there's some movement in this space by some interested parties, but we will, yeah, I'm interested to see what comes out of all this car parking strategy, and going out for community consultation will hopefully, yeah, uncover some more outside the box thinking.
Any other discussion? If not, Deputy Mayor, you happy for me to put the motion? I'll put that motion. All those in favour, carried unanimously. Thank you. Moving on to external body reports. We note the minutes of the following groups. Who'd like to move that way? Deputy Mayor, and seconded Councillor Samble. Any discussion? If not, I'm going to put that motion. All those in favour, carried unanimously. Thank you. I don't have any questions on notice. Questions without notice. Councillor Shanks.
So these questions were sent to me last night, so apologies, I haven't forwarded them through, hence why they're without notice. So I've had a resident reach out to me and he's got 4 questions. First one being, what's the process to get a bus service on Greenslade Boulevard, Evanston South? Is that a state issue? Yes. Yeah. Is that something Town of Gawler can lobby for?
Yes.
Yep. Okay, no worries.
We're not in control of.
No, but it is something that we can show we might have some interest, or maybe
absolutely.
see if there is collective interest.
Yeah, there needs to be a demand.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I guess then the question would be, how do we capture that demand, if there is any?
Well, that's a really good question. You'd probably start with emotional notice, Councillor Shanks.
Okay. No, perfect. All right. Thank you very much for that. That answers that one. When is Clark Road, Evanston Gardens due for maintenance, as it is in a shocking state?
Okay. I might pass that over to Wendy Young, but I think that's your portfolio. So that's.
Yep, through the chair. That is now my portfolio, but I will take it on notice because I genuinely don't know. So I will find out and get back to you.
Okay, thank you very much. And the next one, Councillor Shanks.
Yeah, and just to be clear, I didn't expect answers to all these. These are just documented.
That's all right.
Is there any works planned for the intersection of Adelaide Road and Ames Drive, Evanston Park, next to Vidula Centre? In addition, there is a big dip in the road. Can DIT be contacted to fix it if they haven't already?
Is that on Adelaide Road? Is that on Adelaide Road? Yeah, I think that's come up numerous times.
Yeah, I think so, and that's that's the question.
Certainly, I'll hand that over to Wendy if that can be sent through to the department, your contacts in the Department of Transport, and if we can get a response, hopefully we'll get a response back from the department.
Yeah, that would be fantastic. Lastly, these are not my words. Lastly, why the secrecy with the sale of Vidula's Garden Centre? Is it not common knowledge that it has been sold and Bunnings will be relocating there?
Well, I know that there's a code amendment on the site, and that's called for a bulky goods centre. I think that's all that the proponents have told us.
Yeah, so bulky goods.
There's a code amendment on that site.
Yeah, that's right. So I did sort of answer that. He's not the first one to bring up the Bunnings rumour. Just putting that out there. But that said, it's not necessarily in our remit just yet. But yeah, again, I said I'd ask the questions on behalf of a ratepayer.
Thank you very much. Any other questions without notice? Councillor Samble. Oh, hang on. There we go. All good.
Thank you, Mayor Karen. I'm just wondering, as you know, I mean, I just can't believe we still don't, we're talking about car parking and everything, but if you drive into Murray Street for the first time, how do you know where the car parks are? There's no signage. The signage is still not existent. Now, if you want any signs done, you know, we've got plenty of graffiti artists around the town that can sort of write something on a wall, car parking here. And I'm just wondering if the signage can be upgraded in this town to show people where they can park, and then maybe the traders would be a lot happier. And the other thing is to do with the banners across the street. We know they cost $2,000 every time they're changed. And you know, can you tell me why when you drive into the town and you see the beautiful main street and you see two huge signs, your dog registrations are due? Can't we find something happy like welcome to Gawler shows coming up or something? But drive into the town and see what the people have been saying to me, and they say, gee whiz, Sambo, you know, why do you have to have two damn big signs to say your dog registration's due? So that's just my point. Can we change that attitude or something, or whoever's putting signs up?
I think we've got over 5,000 dogs in the town, so I think there would probably be a lot of people who'd be quite appreciative of being reminded that they need the dog registrations due. I think the Gawler Show does traditionally have a sign up closer to the Gawler Show. Is that right, David? Yeah, David's nodding his head. So, but thank you for your question.
Well, the person that said it to me was an Aboriginal person, and it's Reconciliation Week next week. I mean, I would have thought there might have been something up there. You know, like people, not your dog regos are at you.
Yeah, no, I hear what you're saying.
Got to be done better.
People who want, there is a schedule, a yearly schedule, and people need to book in. So if people from Reconciliation want a poster or a banner up, just get in contact with staff, and they can be put, you know, incorporated into the schedule.
So through the chair, we did have Reconciliation Week banners up. For Reconciliation Week, they were recently changed over to the dog registration ones. So just to clarify that, it is part of our annual program.
Okay, thank you. Right. Any other questions? If not, we'll keep moving. We've done our motions. And so we're now on to motions without notice. Yep. Councillor Shanks.
I've sort of written this down on the fly, so any assistance here will be great. But what I'm trying to do, and what I've got written down is here, council provides some preliminary planning advice to the car club on the site between the bowls and tennis clubs, as shown on site Thursday, the 23rd of June. So what I'm trying to do there, so
I actually think that should be a motion on notice rather than a motion without notice. It gives the community a chance to have a say on what is quite a significant change.
absolutely. What I'm trying, yeah, and I guess this is what would be great to get some assistance with. What I'm trying to do is just trying to help the car club understand the planning merits needed of that site, because they might turn around and say this is not viable for us anyway. So what I'm trying to, I guess, orchestrate is a meeting between the car club and the planning, just to unpack some of those ideas, because as we discussed, the elected members that came, we know it's being built on a floodplain. We know, as discussed, some of the maybe the class. You know, those preliminary discussions may result in no motion needing because the site is not viable, or it may result in actually advancing with something.
The car club could have discussions with the planning department now, I think, without a motion. CEO, I might seek your advice.
We've been having monthly meetings with the car club, as you know, for quite some time, and we've also got, and those scheduled meetings are still in our diary. So, and the next meeting is on Monday. next Monday. So we can, and we've been talking about planning issues and community land issues and a whole raft of other issues. So I'm hopeful that that meeting will be happening. We'll certainly be there. And then we can have
I
the
won't be
conversation.
there because I've got a Garrock meeting, so it keeps clashing with my other meetings. So,
Right,
yeah,
okay.
so I
Well,
won't be there, unfortunately.
Okay.
Mm.
So we have regular scheduled meetings and we can talk about the planning issues.
So maybe you could invite some, well, you're a planner, but they're planning a chief planner to provide some advice on sites, etc. So that might happen anyway. Okay. Yeah, no, thank you, Nathan. Okay, I'm gonna move on. Council member attendances. So Henry and I went, the CEO and I went to Canberra last week, and we met with Christine McBain, Minister for Regional Development, Local Government and Territory. She's an ex-mayor of Bega. We met with Ruth Webber, Chief of Staff for Senator Carol Brown, and who's also the Assistant Minister for Infrastructure and Transport. That was a really useful meeting with Ruth Webber. We met with Richard Fleming, the General Manager, Consumer and Fair Trading Division, the ACCC, which was an interesting meeting, and they're quite excited about what's happening in the climate change space. It was quite a productive meeting. We also met with Kylie Bryant, Claire Forsyth. We didn't meet with James White, he wasn't there. With the Department of Industry, Science, Energy and Resources, and we were basically talking about carbon offsets, market accounting, and and trying to lobby them to put in policy and also change legislation to incorporate market accounting in the renewable space, but particularly around carbon offsets as well. And they were all on side, and they've got some ideas as well. So it was a really productive discussion. Also, we had a local land developers and builders forum yesterday, and there was some really interesting conversations around development in the town, but also opportunities, and including affordable housing. I was approached by one member who was really keen to discuss about our innovative ideas around affordable housing and how we're going with that. It was really, really productive. So I was excited to hear some of the developments that are coming on board, which is always exciting for our town. I went to the Gawler Telephone Exchange reunion on the 30th of May. My mother worked there in the 50s, and I actually met somebody who knew her. It was fabulous. It's just fabulous. It was put on by Martin Walker, who did an absolutely fabulous job, and their Heritage Centre. And it was really, really important for the Institute was packed with people, lots of discussion. It was an absolutely marvellous reunion. It was a credit to all involved. We had an information candidate forum that I spent a little bit of time, and then went to a public meeting on a Churchill matter, which also went really well. And the information candidates had some positive feedback on that. Yeah, I also had a meeting with 2 students from Emmanuel Lutheran College on how they could help the homeless in Gawler. And that was a really productive discussion. And hopefully we might pair them up with the Salvation Army to do some fundraising. They're really keen to do some fundraising in that space, which was fantastic. I went to the open day of Willow's Men's Shed, and there was a fabulous presentation by mates in construction, but also the National Men's Shed Association. They were really excited about how successful our men's shed was and is, and they're just going from strength to strength. It was really, really fantastic. And the last thing I'd like to say is I went to the business conference put on by the Gawler Business Development Group on Friday last week, and it was a really well-run day. Lots of interesting speakers, lots of interesting ideas, particularly around digital economy, social media, etc. Google business, not that I know much about Google business, but they were very, very good presentations and I thoroughly enjoyed it. So that's my update for the month. Councillor Davies.
Yeah, I've been along to a few things. The candidate information session was quite interesting. I'll note that it was suggested that people come along and observe a council meeting, and we have 2 people who came along to that session who've stayed along for the whole council meeting. There's Angus over there, formerly of the Youth Advisory Committee, and Wayne Fisher from Tabletop Warfare, which I didn't attend to the business conference, but I understand they've won the Best Business Award again. So congratulations. I also went to the farewell afternoon tea for Sam Delina, which was, you know, always good to see the, I guess, the internal workings a little bit and see how everyone's, you know, comes along and supports each other. And, you know, I guess just welcome to Wendy in the big chair now that Sam's gone. And yeah, I did go, as Councillor Shanks mentioned, the car club did invite us along to have a look at their potential new space for a shed over near the bowls club and tennis courts and that, and had a bit of an early discussion. Bryce was there to provide some support as well, and I'll be interested to see where that continues to go.
Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, I also went to the candidates, and it was really good to see a group of younger candidates or potential candidates coming along, which was really good. And yeah, I highly recommend candidates come to council meetings before, so they get some idea of what they're up for, which is good. Yeah, we just caught up with the members of the car club for an informal sort of briefing from them, which was handy. I do have a presentation for the mayor. I'll get to that in a sec, but I went to the state government awards for our volunteers at the Adelaide Convention Centre, which was really good. Today I attended the Ghana reburial of old people at Smithfield Cemetery, and if people haven't been out to see the 2 hectares that the Ghana people have designed for these reburials, it's quite spectacular and worth having a look. It's really well done. Today we buried, I think it's 220 remains, and yeah, it's quite a moving ceremony, quite sad. Adelaide University apologised for their collection. I think they had 50 remains from them, but the Adelaide Museum's got over 4,500 Aboriginal remains from around Australia and the world, I think. So there will be quite a lot of more happening in Smithfield, and it was good to catch up with the CEO and the manager of the cemetery and talk about works there in the future, and it's looking really good. Also did a tour with the CEO Henry and some staff and David with Ghana Rivers, looking at some of our cultural history along the river, which was really quite good. And it was actually really amazing to see some of our gum trees where the pest tree species have been removed. The gums have healed up and actually healed some of these shield areas and wounds that were caused over the years as well. Some culturally and some probably from other means, but just by the health of the gum trees by taking out the pest species was really noticeable. And I also attended a Gawler Health Advisory Council meeting last week where we're working with the state government on some really exciting plans for the whole site, and which is really going very well as well. But yeah, I do have a certificate from the Gawler Hockey Club. They received a small grant to fund junior coaching for their players and for this season, and it was really successful. process, and got a lot more young players in, some really good coaching for the players. And has
Shall we
really
take a
helped them.
photograph? Do you want to come
Yep,
up and
okay.
present it? And we can take a photograph. Thanks, Paul. Oh, that's awesome. Thank you. Thank you to the hockey club as well. All the hockey club. Thank you. We'll send you the photograph for your newsletter. Okay. Any other council member attendance? Councillor Kosh.
Yeah, just really only one. I mean, I've been to some other things, but people have mentioned them. I actually attended the BMX on Saturday night, and they're celebrating 40 years of their club, and they've got a series going. The series was event 5, I think. But interestingly, they've really done a great job out there. They've bitumised all the booms, and they've just redone all their lights. So the under lights, it's fantastic. And potentially there's a big event that may come Gawler's way this year, but I can't really talk about it, but potentially might come Gawler's way. Yep.
Beautiful. Thank you. Okay, I think it's appropriate to have a motion that we note the verbal and written updates, and that the written updates get included in the minutes. You happy to move that way, Councillor Kosh? You happy to second, Councillor Davies? I'll put that motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you. Councillor Davies has moved an extension from 10:30 till 11, but we might need it. Do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Fraser. All those in favour? Carried. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Okay. So now we have our confidential reports, although you, where's 16.1? We do need to move that. Are you happy to move that way, Councillor Fraser? Thank you. Do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Davies. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. So now we move to confidential reports, and I'm on page 88 of our white packet. We have a recommendation to go into confidence, and we have governance, minute taker. Where's Bryce? I can't see Bryce. Yeah, but is he in the list? He's not in the list, is he? Yeah, he's not on there. Can that be added, please? Thank you. Right, so we have the appropriate people here. We have a recommendation to go into confidence. Who wishes to move that way? We don't have to go into confidence. It's up to you. You happy to move that way, Councillor Fraser? Do you wish to speak? And
yes, we're talking 17.1, aren't we?
Yes.
Yes, we need to go into confidence. Information for the disclosure of which could reasonably be expected to confer commercial advantage, and also for tenders of supply of goods. So.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Deputy Mayor, thank you. Any discussion? If not, I'm going to put that motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Carried unanimously. Thank you. We are now in confidence. If you can shut the doors. Thank you, Bryce.